What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on our Facebook page. Follow us on iTunes and Spotify. And don't forget to check our affiliate links in the description of the YouTube episodes. There you can often find direct links to some of the products we mentioned throughout the episode for your buying pleasure. I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host Jason McMaster. And we've got a show today that I can only describe as a doozy. I'm laughing already because we're going to spend some time talking about Van Halen during the David Lee Roth era. And we've got a bonus for you today because we are going to have David Lee Roth himself join us in a manner of speaking. We've got some excerpts from an interview I did with him, and he'll share some of his punchlines and wisdom with us, and you're not going to want to miss that. We'll get to all that in a little bit, but first, let's bring in Jason. What's going on with you today?
Howdy doody time. I'm good. I'm bathed. I've taken a shower today.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
exciting.
had a good day.
Yep, yep. I'm feeling pretty good. I got some coffee, had some lunch, and that's rare
Wow.
since it's on my clock it says 5 p.m. So
Bathed and fed. Bathed and fed.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I figured I better get healthy for this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's going to be, like you said, a little bit of a doozy, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's gonna
There's
be
um there's a lot of things that I don't have written down or anything that I'm really hoping I don't forget to mention. So,
fun.
but I'm well. I may have mentioned it to you guys off camera. This would be my show and tell. I got now this is not an original Road Racer issue of Merciful Fate. Nuns Have No Fun.
Yeah.
It's a very graphic cover.
Yeah.
Won't describe it. Mercy fans will know what I'm talking about. This came out in 1982 on Road Racer. It's not colored vinyl or anything, but they really stuck to the original jacket. Um, it's only the 4 songs, but they sound so good. Certainly remastered. Um, they they really did it right. I believe that this was, yeah, just last year, 2020, they did this reissue. And it was 25 bucks. I got it from End of an Ear
Oh,
in Austin, Texas.
great shot.
And yeah, it's a great shop. And it's 180-gram vinyl. Everything on it is exactly how I recall, with the bad photos and bad makeup and just black and white, old school. I'd love that Metal Blade just is still around and have done so well and have spawned the music that ultimately we probably wouldn't be here having a show if it wasn't for Metal Blade Records.
Yeah.
It's kind of true, right?
Yeah. A lot of great stuff.
One more goodie they put in here was, and I believe this to be actually a more of uh, just a more expensive cardstock kind of paper than the original lyric, because it's just like an 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11 typing paper,
Yeah.
which I think was what was actually inserted into the original issue, like
Yeah.
hand typed.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's the
one more disintegrate.
lyrics to all the songs. But this is actually on a little bit better stock. But that's really about it. They really kicked a bunch of ass. And like I
Awesome.
said, I put it on the other day, and man, it was 1982 all over again. You know
Man,
what? You know what, Dave? It's 1982 every day for me.
it is.
How
Yeah.
about you?
Well, I had a birthday recently, and as you mentioned on a previous episode, I got my copy of the Rob
Yay.
Halford book. So, spend a lot of time talking about it, but I have been reading about a chapter a day, and I'm probably about not quite halfway through it. And I'll say this for now, and then I'll recap when I finish reading the book on a future episode. But so far, it's a great read. I'm really enjoying it. Um, and that's kind of been what's occupying my time as far as music is concerned since we last spoke. But yeah, thus far, highly recommended.
Oh yeah.
Really enjoying it. Very candid, as you've mentioned in previous episodes, because I know you've read the book as well.
Hmm.
But I'll save my final review for some point in the future when I actually finish the book. Um,
There's some things I just want to like blurt out into the microphone now that will be spoilers for you that I just don't want to do.
yeah, don't do it. Don't do
But
it.
there's one huge bummer about the book.
I'll find it. I'll
You find
find
it and tell me what the big bummer is.
yeah,
He
okay.
basically leaves somebody out.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
All right.
And it's a big bummer and you'll know why because well, you'll know.
It'll stick out like a sore thumb, I'm sure.
Well, or it won't at all. You'll
I'll
realize it after the fact. Like I had to go back, it was like 3 chapters later. I was like, "Wait a minute." And I went back and like his editor missed it.
Wow.
It's too bad. It's
It
too bad
happens.
on multiple levels.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Rob feels bad about it because surely he knows that he did it, unless there was a reason he did it. Dun dun dun.
Yeah,
And
there
we won't know that until you call up Chipster and get Rob to be a guest on Talk Louder.
exactly.
Zing zing zing.
Yeah. Well, I'll save the rest for when I actually finish the book. But so far, it's been a
Yeah.
good read. The other thing I've been doing is keeping up with our listeners' comments, and I want to give a shout to Rex Rogers.
Yeah.
He found us a little after we, in his words, kind of was arrived late to the party. But I will say this: the guy is binge listening to the podcast, and he leaves comments on every episode, and we love it.
Every 10 minutes. He's
I know my phone is blowing up,
every
and it's like, "Hey, it's Rex Rogers. This is awesome!" And he's always got something great to offer. And for those of you who don't know, Rex is Texas guy, had a band called Shotgun Rebels. They were out of San Angelo, Texas. And Rex also was the owner or co-owner or some big head honcho of a rock club in San Angelo, Texas called the Dead Horse Saloon. And if you're a touring band traveling through Texas, Texas is huge. So San Angelo is about halfway between El Paso and Austin slash San Antonio, central South Texas. So if you're a traveling band and there's a midpoint rock venue and you get to play the stage and get fed, you go to the Dead Horse Saloon. And from what I've been told by people I know that are in bands, they were always treated really well there. And so, anyway, I wanted to give a shout to Rex for binge listening to Talk Louder and spreading the word. And if you stay tuned to the end of this episode, I'm going to get back to Rex because I have a story about him later on in the episode. And
good. I want to throw a shout out to Rex right now because Broken Teeth and I think Kill 'Em All played through San Angelo a bunch of times, and we were hosted by the Dead Horse and Rex. And Shotgun Rebels, his band was kick ass. And when they
yeah,
would come through, they would usually play. I think they played with the Toys one time and a couple times with Broken Teeth here, but they were awesome. Rex is a great guy
yeah,
and just worships rock and roll just like anybody else. So he's more than welcome here.
yeah,
And I love how especially the record stores episode, how he went off on Sundance, the record store that he grew up in San Marcos, Texas.
yeah,
That was incredible. And he even said something really cool. How he said, uh, if I don't watch it, my garage is going to turn into a replica of Sundance Records in San Marcos via 1982
Yeah,
or something like that. I was like, yeah.
that would actually be awesome.
That's what I commented and said. I
Yeah,
said, that would be incredible. Take photos, do a
yeah.
walkthrough of your garage and go, here's where the Coke machine was, you know.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Sundance Records in San Marcos, it closed up a while back, and I hear it's reopening at a new location under new ownership because the previous owner recently passed away. But when I was going to school, college in San Marcos, and I believe Rex went to the same college at a different time, which is what placed us both at Sundance Records at various points. But I bought half my Ramones collection at Sundance Records. And during that episode, I think I failed to mention that record store as being one that I frequented. But to get back to Rex's point, that place was covered in rock and roll memorabilia from floor to ceiling, and it was really cool. You spent as much time staring at the walls as you did actually flipping through the record bin. So if he's going to convert his garage into Sundance Records, do it and then invite me over.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to give a shout to Rex and stay tuned because I'll have more on him and a story I want to share at the end of the episode. But let's move on to David Lee Roth with Van Halen. So, David Lee Roth with Van Halen. First of all, is it fair to just come right out and say that Van Halen with David Lee Roth is probably one of the greatest American hard rock bands of all time? Without exaggerating, can we put them in the top five? Is that fair?
I think so. Without, I mean, you know me, give me a minute and I'll argue with myself about it. But yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, as far as American rock bands go that sort of changed the world, that's they're in there. They're one of the winners.
Yeah.
But I want to back up and go. And this is one of those things that I'm gonna give you shit about is the fact that when you say Van Halen, do you have to say with David Lee Roth?
Well, for the sake of this episode, um,
No, I
yeah,
mean
I mean,
just in general, if you're two guys hanging out, you know, drinking a beer, listening to Van Halen, do you have to say, what do you guys listen to? Van Halen with David Lee Roth?
no.
You know,
If
it
first
doesn't
of all,
sound doesn't
yeah,
sound right.
first of all, if I'm drinking a beer with you, it's understood that we're talking about Van Halen with David Lee Roth, or else I'm not drinking a beer with you.
That's right. Right.
And
Right.
no
It would
disrespect to
be
Sammy, but
it would be under some sort of uncertain circumstances that it be any other kind of Van Halen.
yeah, which is
Right.
the point of this episode today, because obviously they went on to great things with Sammy Hagar, but we're focused on David Lee Roth today because with David Lee Roth, the David Lee Roth lineup is the band that put Van Halen on the map, and for good reason, and that's what we're going to get into today. Um, so, when did Van Halen first come on your radar?
I love the question. Thank you, Dave. I'll take it. I was living in Corpus Christi growing up, a young, I want to be clever and say degenerate, but I was a good boy who was just completely drowning. I was drowning myself on purpose I was swimming to the bottom of whatever rock and roll had to offer. And I remember it was probably 1978, and I was over at a neighborhood friend's house, and this time it was the older brother's record collection strikes again.
Yep.
We were in the garage. It was a converted garage, and you know, had a old stereo out there, and it was a party room, right?
Yeah.
And it was at a neighborhood friend's house, and we were over there. It was in the summer, and you know, I think that we had like the party lights on and stuff, and we were just listening to records. I remember that day we listened to like the first Boston record, you know, whatever, things like that.
Yeah.
But then uh, they put that Van Halen record on, the first Van Halen record. And I started asking questions immediately. Is this your brother's record? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, this is what? You know, I just pretty much stopped in my tracks and started listening to what was happening because being the Kiss freak that I was and well versed in, every, Rush and Judas Priest and AC/DC by then, right? Um, it was, as well as whatever was the hot classic rock, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Alice Cooper, Elton John, whatever, all the things that we talk about on Talk Louder. But
Yeah.
this was a holy shit moment
Yeah.
because it wasn't like, the Ian Gillan, space trucking scream, or the Rob Halford Victim of Changes. It wasn't anything like that. It was like you've heard me say this before, the game show host on acid trying to sing heavy metal, or it was like Louis Prima, or it was like a jazz crooner who was, trying to sound like a bald eagle or a tyrannosaurus, or like a, you know what I mean? It was monster. There was
Terrible.
something vocally happening on top of this sort of, because some songs were boogie woogie and some, I mean, I didn't have terminology back then. I was in 78, I was 13 years old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. uh took the dude, Eruption came on, and everyone was just kind of like jaw open, like
Yeah.
what is happening right now? Because that was the first time that I personally, I can't speak for whoever else was there, had ever heard a guitar solo. I mean, there's, you had Gonzo Double Live.
Double live
You had
Gonzo. Yeah.
Gonzo,
Ted Nugent.
the Ted Nugent live album, and there's, he's doing guitar solos on there. But I'm sorry, Ted, Eruption is not the solo in Hibernation.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Sorry to Ted and everyone else for that matter.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was, I mean, I caught it the year that it came out. It was the year before. It was the year that Van Halen probably went out opening for BTO and whoever else, Nazareth and Journey and whoever else,
Black
until
Sabbath, famously.
in '79, not long later, they were blowing Sabbath off the bill. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that little phrase will come up again in this episode about the Van Halen Black Sabbath
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I was somehow I missed the first record, and I don't know why or how. I was definitely into rock music at the time. I, like you, was obsessed with Kiss. But the first Van Halen song I remember hearing on the radio was Dance the Night Away from the second album. And I didn't know who it was, but I loved the song. And so
What year was it? Were you being introduced?
it's the year that that album came out. So that's
Okay. 79,
79. Yeah.
maybe 80, late
Not 80s,
79.
80s women and children's first.
Right.
So,
Well,
so
they were busy. So
yeah,
yeah.
every band back in those days was. But I remember hearing "Dance the Night Away" and not knowing who it was, and so I did a little digging, and it was a hit. So it was on the radio, a few times a day, and eventually I heard that it was this band Van Halen, and so I remember, and it wasn't long after, as you just said, it wasn't too much longer, and Women and Children first came out, and that's the first album I bought by Van Halen. I bought it on cassette tape, and that was, to me, that was a turning point because up until 1980, I was exclusively all about Kiss. And I think, Back in Black by AC/DC and Women and Children First by Van Halen both came out in 1980. So I bought them both at the same time. And I remember thinking, um, this is taking rock and roll to a whole different level for me. And I don't know if I was looking, maybe I was looking for something a little heavier or a little harder or a little more, for lack of a better word, mature or something like that. But I remember thinking, after listening to Van Halen and AC/DC at that time, that rock just got harder and heavier for me, and I loved it, you know. So that was kind of when they first came on my radar. And I remember buying Women and Children First on cassette. And
Well, hold on. When you heard Dance, you were how old were you? You were young,
yeah, so if it came out in
79. How
79,
old were you?
I'm 12.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'm like 12 years old. I can remember I was living in Maryland. My dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. But I remember we were living in Maryland. I had my bedroom was downstairs in a two-story house, and I was at an age where I was going to sleep with the radio on, and I was trying to record songs off the radio on a cassette, you know, and you always ended up with the DJ's intro and outro. But that's when I remember hearing "Dance the Night Away." And you know, the funny thing is, it's one of Van Halen's more melodic, sort of poppy songs. But I loved it right away. It was so catchy, and I loved how the cowbell was featured in it, you know, and I just thought it was great. And so then, you know, a few maybe a year later, Women and Children First comes out, and I'm a sold Van Halen fan at that point. So yeah, I graduated from Kiss in 1980 when I discovered Van Halen and AC/DC at the same time. And so when Van Halen came, so why is it that you think the chemistry, especially with Roth, worked so well? Because I mean, uh, rock had very charismatic frontmen before Roth came along. You had Jim Dandy, you had Steven Tyler, uh, you had like a Rod Stewart or something. What was it that Dave brought to rock and roll that was so, you know, unusual? Or what was the secret ingredient that he had that the rest of them didn't? Because he definitely became sort of a class unto himself as a front man.
Well, I think that he has ego, and I think that he uses that um, in all the right places, and he can turn that on and um, actually turn. I feel like he's turning it into he's using it as his X factor, like his as an unstoppable force. And he's one of these front men that, much like Tyler, just is a great example, who is sort of you're not going to get a word in, and he's probably going to say something offensive, and you're going to laugh at it instead of get mad at him. And he's talking about you. And I feel like Dee Snider is worthy of this conversation about the same kind of a thing.
Yeah,
He's gonna start a friendly fight that's not physical, and you're gonna love him for it, right?
yeah,
Um, I think that uh, the Roth vocal style has a lot to do with I don't want to say hair metal, it has a lot to do with how fun 80s rock and roll became.
yeah,
Because he was talking about partying, he was singing the blues about love and, the opposite sex and metaphors aplenty.
yeah,
And there's he's a full package as far as a frontman goes, but he's not a terrible singer. At the same time, he created his own way.
yeah,
Um, his range is really good, but there's, a chest voice. You can only get so high in your chest voice until it becomes another voice. Um, these are technical things I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When you can raise your voice to a certain point, and then there's a break in your voice.
Yeah.
And Roth is one of those guys, much like Steven Tyler, who sings on the break quite a bit and figured out a way to use that to where he can like do this like kind of fry vocal. This kind of like creaky thing where it sounds like three voices at one time.
Yeah.
And Tyler's good at that, and Roth is good at that. There's a bunch of people who can sing like that and still not and still have some kind of girth or some kind of like uh, shape to it when they use it,
Yeah.
and that makes him sort of unstoppable as far as what he can do. And also, I feel like the combo between what was, because Eddie sang too, but Michael Anthony singing all of those high harmonies. It's kind of like Freddie Mercury had Roger Taylor. Roger Taylor of Queen, the drummer, is the one singing all that Galileo. That's the drummer. So see what
Yeah.
I mean? There's this 1-2 punch going on in all this classic rock music, and Van Halen is definitely one of them. And I feel like, the same thing happened when Sammy joined Van Halen. The same, he had all this cool stuff to work with, which is what Roth had. Now I love Sammy Hagar, but I feel like the thing that Roth, and this is where I get personal, the thing that Roth had that I love is how just like ridiculously silly it sounds when you sort of take it out of context, like what he's doing, because it's just so like wow, it's almost like he's doing like bird noises and shit.
Yeah. Some
But
wild,
with but
something out of the
with the
jungle.
riff, which inadvertently is kind of like heavy metal riffs. I mean, they were the funnest heavy metal band that was not a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
They were like, I mean, David Lee Roth was like a satanic cheerleader,
Yeah.
bouncing all around and doing roundhouse kicks and the splits and wearing, funny clothes and it's crazy.
Yeah, I always thought that part of his appeal was maybe goes back to the fact that his influences weren't necessarily uh, rock singers from a previous generation. I'm sure he
That's
had.
right. And before I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but you mentioned Jim Dandy. It's arguable. A lot of people say that he got his whole thing from Jim Dandy. The way he talked to the audience, the way he berated the audience, the way
Yeah,
where he's wearing the hip hugger thing with like cowboy boots or dancing shoes or whatever the hell he was wearing. So
yeah, yeah, and but so yeah, you could argue that he borrowed heavily from Jim Dandy, and that would be a case where he's borrowing from someone that came before him, maybe. But I would say that a lot of his influence comes from things that are more showbiz than straight music. Like he grew up, he was a big fan of like Al Jolson.
yeah,
He was he was totally into vaudeville. The song and dance man, Sammy Davis Jr. That
yeah.
kind of stuff.
Believe it or not, he's more Alice Cooper than you think. Alice Cooper loves that kind of stuff. The
Yeah,
vaudeville and the, scary movie meets a vaudeville show. That's what
right.
Alice
But
Cooper is. Well,
but with
David Lee Roth is similar to that in a lot of ways.
Dave kind of brought with him that the whole sense of humor. Alice borrowed from it in a visual theatrical kind of way, but Dave also
Campy.
brought over the humor,
Yeah.
which I think is important because Dave kind of gets remembered as sort of the clown prince of rock and roll. And I think that's because he grew up on TV and big band music and, song and dance men and people that you saw on TV that, there was music playing in the background, but they were entertainers first and musicians second. And that was kind of, he had a great deal of his influence came from that type of thing more so than, he wasn't mimicking Robert Plant, or he wasn't trying to be Mick Jagger. He was trying to be some guy, from a slapstick television show. And oh, by the way, I sing, kind of deal.
Right.
And so he brought that comedic element and that element of showbiz. And I think that that's an important part of who he became, and what made him such a party starter. And you put that in front of a rock band that's smoking hot in an arena full of people, and it's a party, man. I mean, a lot of frontmen at that time were, they might have been energetic and charismatic or whatever, but they were oftentimes very sort of serious or morose, or uh, being over, spending a lot of time being taken or perceived as being artistic or whatever. And Roth was like, he'd put the lampshade on his head and set himself on fire if that's what it took to get a laugh.
I see what you did. You said on fire. I get
I
that.
said on
Yeah.
fire, didn't
Yeah.
I?
You
Yeah.
did. Yeah, I like that.
But he brought
So,
that element of showbiz and comedy and stand up and big band and that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of what shaped him into the front man that a new generation of fans was like, wow, this guy's a lot of fun. This is great. I'm having a good time.
yeah,
And the
I,
girls loved it. Let's not forget that. Him and Van Halen brought a whole new demographic to arena rock. I'm not saying,
well, he was, they liked his clothes because he wasn't afraid to dance and shake his ass and move his hips
yeah, yeah,
well, and he was a gymnast. He's doing flips and back
yeah.
bends, and all you got to do is look at the back of the first cover. I mean, they gave him the back of the cover because
Right.
he's
And he
he's
was
doing
he was a good-looking guy, and he was
yeah,
tanned and buff, and he
yeah,
gave the audience something to look at, something to listen to, besides the vocals. That it was the punchlines between the songs, it was the ad lib stuff during the songs. It
right.
was the kind of stuff that made it feel loose and fun, like a backyard keg party, just
Yeah.
magnified to an arena-sized stage.
Yeah, there's some sort of ad hoc, off the beaten path, kind of like not big money production, sort of like uh, documentaries or biopics about Van Halen, and they're just talking to like whoever's from Pasadena, California, or whatever, who went to some of those backyard parties.
Yeah.
So, so I hear that you were at a backyard party once in 1975 where Van Halen played your sister's birthday party or something. Tell us about it. And you can look those up on like Amazon Prime or something and watch all those. And they show old flyers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting. It's not polished at all. Um, and I don't even think that there's any Van Halen music in the damn thing at all because they couldn't get the rights to it. That's what I mean by
Yeah.
sort of it's over here. It's not really being pushed. It's hadn't been signed off by management.
Right. But there's a good book that covers that same time period called Van Halen Rising,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
I forget who wrote it, but the beauty of the book is that it sort of focuses on the band as they were before they got famous. So there's a big emphasis on them being like high school kids and playing backyard keggers and being, in rival competitions with other neighborhood bands, and how their backyard parties became the stuff of legend. And it's really cool because, let's face it, we're all pretty well in tune with the story of Van Halen, the famous band. But I like this book called Van Halen Rising because it sort of takes you to it almost quits at the start of the first album.
Yeah.
The bulk of the book is all about them being a neighborhood band and making their name for themselves on the backyard keg circuit.
I
It's
bet this
kind of cool.
weird documentary movie I'm talking about is basically the same thing as the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah,
And it
that's
sounds like
why I'm
it's
bringing it up.
taken, yeah, it sounds like it's taken from what's happening in the book. And they talked to all, the guy who roadied for him in 72 or, whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like 15 years old or whatever. They talked to a guy that, I went to Eddie's, 10th birthday party, those kind of people are in it.
Yeah.
But the thing is the creation of Van Halen took, I mean, I keep thinking of, Motley the Dirt kind of story about how they found Vince.
Yeah.
That similar story is happening with Van Halen too,
Yeah.
Um, the, uh, and Roth's character is actually in the dirt, isn't it? So of course it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Um, the,
But yeah, he was in a rival band,
yeah.
in neighborhood rival band, and the story goes that the Van Halen brothers actually hired him because he had a PA.
Well, that's the same as Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy
Yeah.
got the Sabbath gig because he had a PA.
Right. So all you aspiring singers out there, do yourself a favor and buy a PA, and some struggling neighborhood band will bring you into the fold just because you've got the gear. And
I never knew that was a thing because first off, I didn't fancy myself a singer in the first place. I had a bass rig,
yeah.
didn't have a PA. I got
Yeah.
hired as a singer and I didn't have a microphone,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was the opposite for me. But yeah, apparently that's a thing. You
And
don't get a PA till after you find out you can sing is how it worked for me. So.
yeah, that would be the logical sequence of events, but stranger things have happened.
Well, it would have been like this for me, like if I buy a PA, but I don't know anything about singing. So
Exactly.
I'm getting a gig whether I know how to sing or not.
Right.
It's kind of
Right.
messed up.
And the other thing about Dave was, that personality. He carried it with him. Anytime he was quote unquote on. So even when he was in the media, the interviews that he did were always hilarious. The appearances that he made at award shows or whatever, you just knew he was going to say something hilarious. And it's that stand-up comic inside of him, or that showbiz guy that just never turns off, whether he's on the stage singing with Van Halen or he's being interviewed for some talk show or some magazine or whatever. You can always count on him to have something entertaining to say. And I think that's just part of his thing, man. He's an entertainer more so than a singer, I think.
Hey, let's talk about your interview with him. This is your interview. You recorded these things, and you're. I at least want to like play the very first clip,
Yeah, yeah.
and just to you can get like a sense
What
of
it's
just
like to talk
you, yeah,
to
you
or
like
let
just
him, yeah, or let him talk to you is more
yeah,
accurate.
right. Yeah, yeah. I think that you did a little bit of talking, but in the whole 15 minutes or so, yeah,
Yeah.
you don't get much. Let's see. Here we go.
Hello? I'm calling for Dave. This is David Lee. David Lee, it's Dave. How are you, sir? I'm outstanding. Good. Great to talk to you. I'm sorry I missed you this morning. It's happened. Yeah. Listen, I was actually kind of surprised you were up doing interviews at that hour. I assume you're no longer rothing rooms or nursing brutal hangovers these days, huh? You know what? It swings both ways around, which is part of the fun of it. At some points I'm up at 5 in the morning. We were doing radio rodeo. Are you on tape going here? Yes, sir. We were on radio rodeo for the last 2 weeks and doing, I don't know, an hour and a half's worth at 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, doing morning shows across the country. We did that. We did 10 stations, Houston, Texas, and Chicago, and you name it. Right. Conversely, we turn in, you bring out your Keith Richards merit badge, your Vincent Price fangs, and it's, for me, there is nothing but darkness. Oh, darkness, cool, can I come? Is she with you? Yes, me +2 for darkness. Well, it's nice to know you still got it in you. Well, no, you want to see, you want to celebrate both sides of the coin here. Right. The more you You. Well, my first reaction was either he's treating himself better these days, or he hasn't gone to sleep yet. Well, I didn't get to where I am by watching my health.
Well, that will give you a taste of what I like is you can't really hear it because the way it was recorded, your voice is actually louder than his, but he's laughing with you.
Yeah, he's laughing the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, he's laughing with you, and I can hear it on my end. I don't know if everybody else can, but it's like,
Yeah.
ha ha ha! I hear him just cawing in the back.
He's just howling away in the background the whole time. And I mean, I was in stitches the whole time talking to him because he's just like I was saying leading up to that little clip there, you know, he just doesn't turn off. I guess I hope when he goes to bed at night he finally turns off. But if he's in the public eye or if he's quote unquote on, whether that means being on stage or doing an interview over the phone or somebody catches him at a red carpet event or whatever, you can just bet your ass he's going to throw out a few zingers and everybody's going to be talking about what Roth said the next day.
Right. Well, I want to throw this out there. Haven't read his book. I haven't,
Oh, it's great.
watched or heard 1,000 interviews with him. Just bits and pieces throughout my life as a fan. Right. So, it's kind of like this. I feel like he's highly intelligent,
Oh, yeah.
maybe dangerously.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I like it. I like the way that sounds, that he's dangerously intelligent.
Yeah.
I feel like he has studied everything that has become his persona.
Yeah.
Like he's well versed in whatever it is he needs to become David Lee Roth and be him 24/7 if he has to,
Yeah.
or at least in an interview or radio or whatever. And just the way that he handles himself, it kind of goes back to his his stage persona. And during an interview, he's probably hamming it up and doing his best creation of whatever he is up there or in a Van Halen song for the interviewer, because that's what is going to make the article great.
Yeah, of course. And he knows that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's your point. Yeah. So, you know, we're talking about Dave and his personality, which is a huge part of the Van Halen puzzle here. But obviously, he's got the luxury of fronting like a phenomenal band. You already talked about the great backup vocals of Michael Anthony. We all know, you know, Eddie Van Halen. We don't even need to talk about, and then Alex Van Halen. So I think also key to the success. I mean, you can be a clown all you want, but if you don't have the songs, you're a clown without songs. And in the case of Roth, he was a clown that had great songs that kind of cut across the grain. And you mentioned earlier, you kind of called them the most fun heavy metal band that you could think of, and that's kind of what.
Even though that's not even a term yet.
Right, but what I'm
In my eyes, especially where I was standing, heavy metal was not even something that, I didn't call myself a headbanger at age 13. It was not,
right.
even though Judas Priest and AC/DC and Kiss and Van Halen and everything else was on my radar. It was just rock music.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
but I think that's the beauty of Van Halen, especially at that point, and you know, even in later years. But they were one of those bands that was able to, especially the Roth era, they were hard enough to, you know, appeal to like the rock and rollers who really dug the, you know, the heavier stuff. But they were poppy enough and catchy enough. They were danceable, you know. And then, you know, with Roth out in front of them, it's just kind of a come as you are, let's party, everybody have a good time kind of vibe. But the songs were deadly, man. I mean, there's no
Man,
denying the music.
if you go through, like I'm going through it in my head right now, but we've mentioned On Fire, you got Atomic Punk,
Yeah.
you got Running with the Devil. Running with the Devil even has a little bit of a boogie, it's slow and thud and
Yeah.
headbanger kind of thing, but dancey and still harmonies and all kinds of stuff talking about the devil,
Yeah.
which is kind of which is the
Exactly.
theme that can work, and obviously it worked, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
But like Atomic Punk and On Fire, I'll just talk about those because I can't get even past those. Those might be my I'm the One.
yeah,
I'm the One. So and I'm the One's almost like two songs because they got Show Your Love. And
yeah.
I'm the One is this crazy shuffle beat kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a 1978 Hot for Teacher.
Yeah,
Ba-doo-ba-da-ba-doo-ba-da-ba-doo-ba-da-ba-doo. It's the same feel, right?
yeah.
A lot of people probably don't even realize that.
No, that's a great point. Yeah,
So on Fire and Atomic Punk and I'm the One. Let's just circle those three wagons for a second. Man, you got heavy metal screaming at you, but you also got pa pa da shoo-ba-doo-ah.
yeah, exactly. Which
What?
kind
Didn't
of
I
go,
just
which,
that's
which kind of goes back to the whole vaudeville big band,
Mhm.
Sammy Davis Jr., Al Jolson kind of thing that I was talking about.
ba ba da ba 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 da ba 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 da
Yeah,
ba. I mean, it's might as
Shoo-ba-doo-wah.
well be a little bit of Beach Boys and bebop.
Yeah, bebop.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a perfect mix of all that stuff, and
But On Fire, my point was On Fire and Atomic Punk were metal songs.
yeah,
But during these metal songs, it's kind of like a Metalocalypse, that character that's a clown, Dr. Roxo.
yeah.
You know that
I don't know.
character? Do you
I
know that?
know.
Oh, I bet listeners know. I do cocaine. Woo! It's a total. It's a clown
Yeah,
who who's talking like an Axl Rose, or almost even like how I sing in the Toys, and it's a clown. I don't know if they meant any, if they were pointing at anyone when they did that in that cartoon, but he's a reoccurring character, this Dr. Roxo. Uh, and he talks like this, woo, woo, and he's doing that. And I swear it's like the Dangerous Toys clown with Axl Rose's voice doing like David Lee Roth type anecdotes,
yeah,
and it's a mess. And you should watch it just so you can. Yeah, you're already
yeah.
laughing
I
because
know
you
because
can
I could.
see what. Anyway, so you got these metal riffs, On Fire, just all this seriousness, and he's going whoa. He's
Yeah,
doing that. He's like a cheerleader on these songs that are ripping your brain out.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in their music where he does just that. He throws in a woo or whatever, and you're absolutely convinced that they went into the studio and he just did that on the fly. It was not planned, and
Oh no.
that's what gives it that loose kind of like anything goes. We're here to have a good time kind
He
of
does
thing.
this one. He does this one. I really. Ah! He does that on. That's on I'm the One. Ah! And I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you listened to the I think it's Running with the Devil isolated vocal track that's on YouTube?
I've heard
Have you
some
ever
of them.
have
Yeah,
you ever heard that?
I don't know if I've heard that one.
I
I've heard.
used to listen to that. The first time I heard that, I think I listened to it like 6 times in a row, and my jaw was on the ground. I wasn't laughing. I was just like studying it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it was like a moment in time, like where you could literally be a fly on the wall. Man, I wonder what it would have been like to just been standing outside the door with him sing. Now you can pretend you're standing outside the door and only hearing Roth do
right.
his vocal track. And
Yeah,
what I love about it, it's you can hear the track in the background extremely faint. And I imagine that be the playback in his headphones while he's cutting the vocal that's bleeding into his microphone. Ding ding ding. Do you understand?
yeah, yeah.
It's freaking awesome. And I'm sure that 90% of our listeners who watch or listen to Talk Louder, who are
Yes.
subscribers, uh, they've probably heard that. They've probably heard that isolated vocal track of Running with the Devil. I'm pretty sure it's Running with the Devil.
Well, there's a scream at the end of is it On Fire? There's just this blood curdling.
Oh God, which one? On
Yeah,
Fire is all screams.
exactly. And I mean, it's things like that that just sound so ad lib and on the fly that just give the songs that kind of energy. Because the way he presents it, you just can't imagine that he went in fully planning to do that. It's almost like he sounds like he's getting all caught up in the music and he just lets it rip with whatever, you know.
Well, this is a good. I love this conversation because we're talking about singers
Yeah,
and the histrionics of such the
good word.
crazy part about hard rock or even heavy metal vocal stylings.
Yeah,
Now, when you think about, I'm on fire, and you got Michael Anthony go, I'm on fire, doing the harmony, and it's at the same time, it's like you're being killed.
yeah, exactly.
But you got you got all this crazy like fan, 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 all this crazy riffing going on. I'm on fire, fire. It's like it's nails on the chalkboard to grandma, but it is heaven for you and me.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, it's
Yeah.
precise, man. They're doing some cool shit. It's
Yeah.
and the thing is like the only there had been predecessors. It's not unprecedented. There had been singers that have done exactly that. We've mentioned them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Led Zeppelin did stuff. Was already Plant had already done the sing above the break and harmonize with it, and even Geddy Lee had done that, and they're all getting it from Ian Gillan.
Yeah.
Ian Gillan was doing that. Ozzy wasn't really doing that. Ozzy sang harmony with himself, but he's really a big Beatles guy.
Yeah.
Ozzy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even Dave acknowledges the music that he has the luxury of singing in front of, and everyone talks about Eddie Van Halen and how innovative and groundbreaking he was, and he was. But there's another clip that you have where Dave is talking about the difficulty in finding a guitar player. He plays it down as far as the difficulty in finding someone who can play Eddie's licks, but he's definitely acknowledging the greatness of Eddie Van Halen.
I got it. I'm going to play it.
Yeah, do it.
Here it comes.
But how is it that you go about auditioning guitar players after so many years with the great Eddie Van Halen? Well, the great Eddie Van Halen is wandering around in the fog, and like an old Jamaican sailor told me once, hey, if you always sail in the fog, you don't need a compass. So happy sailing, Cap. Who's playing guitar? Well, wait, I'm telling you. There is a band called the Atomic Punks. Oh, yeah. Who are a tribute band, and there's a fellow who's a singer, David Lee Roth, we call him. And they play 250 times a year. It's the most popular club act on the West Coast. Uh-huh. I'll take some credit for that. Right on. Where do you find somebody in this day and age who can blow the doors off, and I don't mean just sort of represent, because in a funny kind of way, money is more expensive than ever before. Do you know what I'm saying, Dave? Yeah. Okay. So, you know how every note of that goes. You've played that air guitar how many times? Oh, yeah. Me too. Countless. Okay. Well, then you need somebody who's going to bang on that sucker like it was a freebie from a Vegas call girl. So to speak. Well, then you need somebody who's played that literally 1,000 times for money in front of a sarcastic, vengeful, drunken audience. Right. And, here you've got somebody who's not only survived, but transcended and controlled that kind of audience literally 1,000 times. Holy shit. Yeah. This stuff will leave you glowing like the slow guy at Chernobyl.
I think that's my favorite quote.
Oh my God. Okay. So just to be clear,
Leave you glowing
Did,
like the slow guy at Chernobyl.
so so just for everybody, just in case you forgot, in that minute and a half clip, he's talking about guitar players.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you better get someone, you need somebody who's gonna bang on that like a freebie from a Vegas showgirl.
So to speak.
Holy, yeah, holy moly.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
but
the way. Yeah, every quote is just decorated with all this extracurricular stuff. That's just it's pure comedic poetry, man.
well, dude, I feel like your writing style comes from stuff like that. I feel like the way you write your pieces, even your bio material for bands and such, I feel like you take from your favorite frontman and your
Yeah,
favorite lyricist, the way you bang up all the words.
yeah. There's probably some truth to that.
Hmm.
You know, as a writer and a reader, an avid reader, I have a huge appreciation for colorful wordplay and double entendres and comedy that's woven in. So
Hmm.
yeah, I guilty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I come from the school of why just say it when you can say it clever. And there's a fine line between clever and cheesy and going overboard to impress somebody. But if you the winning formula is, can you say it like nobody else could say it, but also have it uh not come across as trying too hard. And
Well,
that's
you also sound like, sorry to interrupt.
no.
That happens a lot on this show. You sound like you're describing the way, like like a songwriting class, like a lyric writing class. It's
Yeah.
exactly all of the stuff that you just said is exactly what a lyricist would completely agree with you, and I'm agreeing with what it is that you're saying, even though I'm the one that called you out on it in the first place. It's exactly like writing lyrics. I feel like
Sure.
your creativeness is the way that someone would sit down to write lyrics to a tune that they're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. That's why the wordsmiths, the ones that are good at it, are I really have an appreciation for. The the Lemmys and the Phil
yeah,
Lynotts and the Bon Scott, those guys.
of course.
Yeah.
I want to make a point that this interview you were talking to him about a tour that he was doing with the tribute band Atomic Punks as his backup band.
Yeah, I don't I'm not certain about that. When I asked him who was playing guitar, it was a guy named Brian Young,
Hmm.
who I don't know if he had ever spent time in the Atomic Punks. And I want to say at the time that I was interviewing Roth, James Lomenzo might have been his bass player.
Mm.
All I know is that the interview took place during the tour where Roth paired up with Sammy Hagar, and
Oh, okay.
I believe
All
that was
right.
2002.
Okay.
So he had a band that I don't think was entirely the Atomic Punks, maybe one or two guys, maybe.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, so yeah, but as you can hear, just talking to him is a riot, and I think that's part of his appeal. So did you ever uh, did you ever see Van Halen with Roth in their heyday?
No, I have a story about that. So it was 79. I know Van Halen had surely come through Texas before that. But it was 79, and my younger brother Randy, who I give a ton of credit to for just my warped mind, my record collection at a very young age, etc.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, thank you, Rando. And so he and some friends saw that show in Corpus Christi, the Never Say Die Sabbath tour, and it would have been probably Van Halen 2 songs they were playing mixed with the first album down in Corpus Christi at the Coliseum.
Wow.
My answer to your question, excuse me, is no. I never saw the OGs. I never saw it.
Yeah.
I have friends that did, of course. My brother saw it, and I remember him saying something about Van Halen, but I was just impressed that he got to see Black Sabbath. You know, I was impressed that he got to see something that was kind of this, not necessarily a new band, you know, a band that had a whole career already.
Yeah.
And he saw he saw Alice Cooper as well. The same year, I think, 79. I don't even know what record on Alice Cooper that would have been.
Wow.
Not almost up to Flush the Fashion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, quick answer is no, and I don't. It was one of those things that I lament about, that we've kind of beat ourselves up on here, like the bands that we could have seen that did not because mom's car had a flat tire or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? You can beat yourself up all you want for the things that you missed where you could
Yeah.
have. No, I'm just gonna stay home. They'll come back next year. No, they won't.
Yeah. I never got to see him back in the day, and I remember my good friend Buzz is who lives in Houston is a huge Van Halen fan, and he first saw them on the Fair Warning tour, and he never missed a show after that. So he saw them with Roth about 7 or 8 times, and then you know the difference 10 more times, I guess, with Sammy, and he
Shit, he
always.
should be in this conversation. He
Yeah, I
knows more
know.
about he could talk about it more than we can. We're
Exactly.
kind of nuts and bolts, and he's like, no, dude, this one thing, and this, oh my god, when they did this, and yeah,
Well, he was, he was a big champion of Van Halen because he saw them, on the Fair Warning tour, and he was like, "Oh my God, dude! If you ever get a chance to see him, you got to see him. Everything, He was talking about the walls of amplifiers, and half of them, of course, were fake. We
to
learned many
to
years
be
ago.
clear, it's the walls of speakers, not
Speakers.
amplifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Jared saw them 4 times with David Lee Roth,
Oh,
our
nice.
producer. He saw him 4 times.
I
So
never saw him
we
with
need to
Roth.
get Jared in here and because me and you are lame
Yeah.
Van Halen spectators.
Well,
Everyone else is
I never saw them in their heyday with Roth, but I did see a couple of the recent reunion tours. The first time I saw him was uh, I remember it was just before my son was born, and he was born in February of 2008. So, like January of 2008, it was one of the first reunion tours, and I loved it because I never got to see them with Roth back in the day. And of course, it's just a hit after hit after hit. And at that particular show, I felt like Roth was, trying to stay faithful to the songs he was trying to sing, in time and on key and that sort of thing. And then I saw him more recently when they did yet another reunion tour, and I was like, I was really disappointed because he kind of let the clown shtick take over, and he was, I mean, I wouldn't even say he was singing. And I have a lot of friends who are musicians that I respect and admire, and they give him a pass. They're like, I don't care, dude. He's the greatest showman, the greatest frontman. I went to the show and had a blast. I thought he was awesome, and I was like, wow, dude, you're a musician, and you thought that was awesome, but to each his own, right? So I never got to see him until.
I'm raising my hand to try to
Yeah.
not interrupt you as bad. I don't know. Do I need permission to interrupt you, Dave? So
No, that's fine.
I have passed on going to see the mighty Black Sabbath because I want Ozzy to be in key. And
Yeah.
he's not always in key. If
Yeah.
he's having a rough night, he'll just, he'll like throw the show. Like he'll just sing whatever note he can sing and it's like, "Oh, that's excruciating." And there is a lot of people that's like, who cares? I got to see Iommi. And I go, you win. There's right. There's no, I can't even argue that. You got to see Black Sabbath, but you didn't get to see Bill Ward either. So Ozzy had a key and no Bill Ward, and they're all still alive, which is an amazing feat.
Yeah.
You know, humanly, it's like that's the Keith Richards thing, right?
Right. Right.
So that's a thing about the Roth story you just told about, you know, your musician friends are like, he's the greatest showman on, you know, that's ever lived. And that's fine. I've watched videos and seen him sing, you know, with Van Halen, from afar, from the comforts of, technology.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it, it's quite awful.
I'm one of those people who agrees.
It's quite awful. Because I want it to sound kinda like the record.
Right.
In time. Okay, sing out of key, change some of the words, sing the wrong words,
Right.
but sing in key,
Yeah.
maybe in time.
Yeah.
That would help. So if you're just kind of talking and just obliterating the song with, you know, yabba dabba doo, it doesn't do anything for me like I want it to. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's like if you watch a video on MTV and then you go see the band 30 years later, and it's all original members and they're all fat as hell and, you know, bald as hell, and, you know, I can relate to all of those things. But understand, they're all, you know, that fan is also 30 years older.
Sure.
But somehow in their mind, they go, oh, wow, look, they're all old and fat. Well, so are you, motherfucker. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you know, you can't see the video and hold on to the video. And 30 years later, you're watching the video and you're looking, well, which one's Jason? You know, you can't do that. That's unfair. That's guerrilla warfare. That's not going to work, you know. So I feel like it might be the same thing. I mean, is David Lee Roth sort of like cognitive, you know, power? Is he losing it? Have you heard interviews with Roth lately? He's not very cohesive and coherent sounding to me. He's a little bit blown out. And David Lee Roth, if you're hearing this right now, I mean no disrespect. I worship the ground you walk upon.
Absolutely. I
But
mean, that's why we're doing this show.
that's
I
right.
mean,
You are on the pedestal. So don't think
yeah.
that we're trying to chop you down at the knee or,
Yeah.
you know,
And you know, it's almost one of those things. I keep going back to the idea that Dave has no shame, and that's actually part of his appeal.
right.
And we have another clip about, you know, the famous assless leather chaps that he used to wear back in the day.
Let me find that one. You know, that was the thing. He's not afraid to do,
He didn't care what he
wear, or
wore.
say anything as long as it'll get a laugh or turn into a song. Let's see what this is.
Right.
Are you, any chance you're breaking out the assless leather pants? I'm still waiting for them to come back in fashion. going out this time. I think what's more impressive than the actual garment itself is the confidence it takes. Nobody really wants to dress like me, and I don't even recommend it.
Now, it's hard to beat.
doesn't it?
It's hard to beat that one right there. The fact that he's saying no one wants to dress like me, and I don't blame them. I don't recommend it. So that I can relate to that too. Just like a fan who 30 years ago or even longer ago would wear something to a concert or to school, or to just, hey, I think I look cool, you know, and
Yeah.
you go to school or you go to a party, you go to a concert, and then you see the photos, you know, 1,000 years later, and you go, what the hell was I wearing? Look at my hair. Look at my, oh my God, what a God. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but, again, though, that's part of his thing, you know. If it draws attention and it gets a reaction, then mission accomplished,
Well,
right?
he needed to be in Van Halen because I think that they took over the world with all of the rights to
Yeah,
do so.
yeah,
They had the band. Eddie was going to, put everyone on their head who thought they could play a guitar.
yeah,
And I think that Eddie can write a song, any kind of song. And I think that Roth's, we're not focusing on this, but his solo career, he did great.
yeah,
He did just fine.
yeah,
I saw that. I saw that Eat 'em and Smile tour. No, no, it was the Skyscraper tour. I
yeah,
saw that. He had the Bissonets playing.
yeah.
He may have had Steve Vai.
Vi is what I was gonna say.
Maybe he had
Yeah,
Steve Vai.
yeah,
I know he had Steve Vai on Eat 'em and Smile. He may have had him on Skyscraper too.
yeah.
But anyway, I think that that's a great clip where he's just unabashed about the chaps, and he's cracking up again. You know who his voice kind of sounds like when they talk and even when they laugh is John Bush.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I don't
could.
know if it's California, if it's California thing or just the way that his
Yeah.
voice grinds, and, oh, the way you like, or whatever it is. But it reminds me of Bush.
Well, that was the fun part about the interview, like you mentioned earlier, and I don't know if our listeners can hear it, but he's just howling away, laughing at everything he's saying himself, you know. And then I start laughing, and he laughs some more, and it's just this contagious laugh fest. And that's kind of what made it so much fun, besides the fact that you're talking to David Lee Roth.
Did you see the Jimmy Kimmel, I believe it was, talk show that's Jimmy Kimmel's a talk show, right? So,
Yeah.
did you see the performance, the Van Halen performance? It was Wolfgang, of course. Um, no Michael Anthony. Did you see that? It's on YouTube, like unedited.
Don't think I've seen it.
Okay, well, let me describe this. Um, it was kind of a nightmare. I believe they like the show. It was live. Jimmy Kimmel Live is the name of the show, so they're live.
Yeah.
And I think that they had to wait until the end credits to even play. To get
Sure.
it on air, because they had some kind of technical difficulties. From anyway, not to be long winded about it, is they finally get it going, and I think Jimmy actually comes out and announces it, and they start playing Panama, and they're playing Panama, and David Lee Roth comes out, and he has this freaking samurai sword. Have you heard about this?
No, but I can see where this is
Are
going.
you kidding? Holy shit, Dave. This is nuts. Okay, so, they're like, take it to boom, Van Halen, down. And they're, 2, 3, 4, chunk, dun, 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 whatever, Panama.
Yeah.
And he's, doing this like, you know, samurai shit
Yeah.
with a real samurai sword.
Yeah.
Okay. So he gets into the song and he's kind of doing the talk sing thing that I bitched and moaned about 10 minutes ago. And whatever, that's fine. And then all of a sudden it gets to the breakdown,
Oh yeah.
solo section part of the song, and Roth sort of he had walked back to the drum riser and like put a towel on his face, and he disappears backstage
I have
for a
heard this.
second,
Yes.
and then they're doing the breakdown. He comes back out with the microphone and says, "Hey, I've got this thing happening, and I've got to fix this thing. Let me take care of this thing. We've got some issues right here, and I've got to take care of this thing." And so the audience is like, "What? What?" I mean, people close enough, they saw it happen. He
Yeah.
cut. I don't know. This is just for lack of knowledge and terminology, and I'm just kind of ass backwards here. He cut his fucking nose off and it fucked up the whole production.
I did see now that yeah, I remember seeing that or hearing about it or whatever, and I didn't know if he like cut himself or just whacked himself real good with that because he gets that samurai sword spinning around super fast.
Well, let me remind you, Dave, it's a sword.
Yeah, I know.
It's not a whack on the, oh, ouch, I got a knot on my head. No, he's
Yeah,
missing an appendage.
yeah,
Something's going on. It's a fucking sword.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So, I mean, all for the show. I mean,
exactly.
he's dedicated to freaking you out, and that was something. I mean, he created a moment. I mean, we could do 5 David Lee Roth shows, whether we mention Van Halen or not. Did you see
Yeah,
David Lee Roth on The Sopranos?
yeah.
You did. Okay,
No,
yeah.
I knew he had been. I haven't
Oh,
seen
you
it.
didn't see that.
I
Okay,
didn't see it.
well,
No, no.
I'm a huge Sopranos guy. I've watched all 6.5 seasons 100 times in 20 years. So,
So let's uh, let's run another clip because
okay, what do you got now? What's this
speaking
one?
of training, you know, he keeps himself in excellent shape, contrary to what he said at the top of the show at that first quote. He's in amazing shape. Obviously, he trains, does martial arts, and all this stuff. Uh, so I asked him, or maybe he just offered. I don't remember, but we have a
It
clip about.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Here you go. I'm gonna hit it.
Uh, I still train hard, you know, twins, triplets. Don't laugh, Dave. You know, it's all fun and games until you forget one of them's name.
Oh, so those of you offended by our inappropriate clips of David Lee Roth just
Sorry.
basically chewing the fat on a regular basis, a daily basis, that's probably how
Yeah,
he talks to the waiter, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Um, um, that's almost inappropriate,
I
but
know.
um,
There's some.
it's part of rock and roll, and it's funny as hell. Uh, yeah, we don't need to repeat that.
Yeah, well, there's another one where he's talking about. We should roll this one too. He's talking
Okay.
about, it's all about the show, and just hit the next one, and we'll let him do the talking
Yeah, here we
again.
go.
What's better than a happy hour gone wrong?
Still better than being at the office, right?
Some of our best evenings have ended that way, you know what I'm saying? We're going to be up till dawn, but it turned out to be happy hour somehow got wrong in a hurry, and that's how I met your mom. Son, that's how I met your mom.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, that was obviously a treat. So back to something serious. Let's
well, hold on real quick. So that clip, I feel like if I recall, you're actually talking to him about the Roth Hagar co-headlining
yeah,
tour,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's talking. The questioning that you were on was like who headlines, and he was explaining, well, I'll play last one night and he'll, I'll open the next, and sometimes it ends well, and then he starts talking about happy hour and son, that's how I met your mom.
yeah.
Right.
Well, what he said, his answer to the question, I love the way he framed this was, my question was just what you said. I was like, is this one of these deals where you guys tour across the country and you flip flop as headliners throughout the tour? And he said, yes. And he goes, and how much better can that be? One night I'm the special guest star, and the next night I'm the headliner. So even when he's the opener, he's the special guest star. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, when you think David Lee Roth and you think Sammy Hagar, you put them 100 miles apart. They're still in the same club.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about one last thing on a serious note, and then we'll let Dave chime in one more time. But I wanted to ask you, we're talking about the great catalog of music that Van Halen put out with David Lee Roth. If you had to pick one album out of that catalog with Roth, the Roth era, which Van Halen album would you go with? Dun 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 dun.
Well, it's like Kiss. It's the first three. I can't. I really can't. I mean, if I had to pick, I mean, I love Van Halen too. I mean, those that could have been one record.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
good.
when you just mix those tunes up, it could have been one record. It's
Yeah,
almost like I remember because I love Dead or Alive, DOA.
yes, great
It's
song.
one of those super heavy, crunchy. I mean, it's just it's. I had never heard anything like that other than you know what else kind of does that. It's a little more Stonesy. Is Adam's Apple by Aerosmith has a
Yeah,
similar riff.
yeah, it does. Yeah,
Um, that's what I mean. It's like you know Van Halen is really kind of like has this momentum of reminding you of something but recreating it at the same time.
yeah,
Um, if I had to pick one,
that's the
pro-
challenge.
probably the first one.
Yeah, I historically, when I've been asked the same question, I've always gone with Fair Warning because I always felt like it was their most metal album. Um, but in recent, I'd say the last couple of years, my son has really gotten into Van Halen, so I've kind of gone back and he's had me re-listen to the first and second album. And man, that first album is just I mean, that is a statement of purpose, man. It's like we're
I
here to kick ass
I
and
loved Little Dreamer. You know, it's not
oh yeah,
really a ballad, but it's got the
yeah. Ain't
it's
talking
got the
about love.
crooning stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Ain't talking
that's
about
a
love is probably one of my favorite Van Halen songs.
well, the needless to say, the record is a I mean, every Van Halen record is a freaking guitar lesson,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's more a lesson in um you know,
Songcraft.
Eddie has a yeah, it's song crafting.
Yeah,
Eddie has has a certain way. He does a lot of something called a sus chord, and he does it in almost every song he writes. And there's this underlying theme in the grooves that he does. I mean, they might have three or four different grooves. They got the boogie woogie, they got the booter datter dooter datter dooter, like Romeo's Delight.
yeah,
That's similar to I'm the One and Hot for Teacher, right?
yeah, yeah,
And you know that's what I'm saying. Like the first three and four records, there's this circle of tempos and grooves and chords that Eddie likes to use. And then I think that when he brought in the keyboard stuff, like the first thing I remember was uh,
Cradle Will Rock.
Cradle and I'll Wait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
I mean, he
Michael
was bringing that
McDonald, the
stuff
Michael
up.
McDonald song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We
I
talked
think that
about
there's a way that he's writing on those that might give it a little spin. But there's similarities in what Eddie would like to do in a song that would I think inspire the singer. In this case, it's Roth to sing the melodies that he's singing and the harmonies that Michael's gonna put on top.
yeah. Well, there's no doubt about it. They had all the magic ingredients and they made it work like nobody's business. And as I said at the start of the show, I would have to put them probably in the top five of the greatest American hard rock bands. When I was thinking about that, I was like, man, that's a pretty bold statement. But honestly, there's Metallica, there's Aerosmith. Uh, you could say Guns N' Roses, even though they don't have the catalog, but they definitely had the success and the impact. But dude, Van Halen, as far as commercial success and influence and impact and the memories that they bring to countless people, even casual rock and roll listeners, I mean, they were a big, big, big deal. And Roth was a huge part of that and putting them on the map. So,
Here I am interrupting you again. This is something that it doesn't matter that we didn't start with this, but I want to say that the club that seems to be most popular for Van Halen, like pre signing a deal, was the Starwood.
yep, yep.
And there's one more club that they frequented in Los Angeles, L.A. County or Orange County. Um,
Probably the Troubadour.
maybe, yeah, maybe when they were clubbing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that they would cover new material back then, like they would cover Man on the Silver Mountain, and they liked the Kinks, and they liked Deep
Montrose.
Purple, and things like that. They may have even covered Montrose.
Yeah, they did.
I've got a cassette someone gave me years ago, and it's just says Van Halen the early years, and I forgot to drag it out. It's behind me somewhere, and there might be a song list on it.
Yeah. Well,
But I don't want to do that right now because it's kind of too late. But so let me ask you this: there's rumors that I haven't really confirmed. I know there to be some truth, but I don't know if the person that's walking around in my brain right now that I want to say the name of, who might have discovered Van Halen, like brought the label to them.
oh yeah, I know where you're going.
Well, whoever walked into a bar or a club in Hollywood and saw Van Halen with their own eyes, and they were the new hot act in Southern California, would have been one Gene Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Gene Simmons paid for their early demos. I
Yeah.
believe produced their early demos, went into a studio with them and just cranked out some tunes. And I believe that Van Halen record that they re-recorded those earliest tracks. I can't remember what the name of it was. Remember
Yep.
when there was this, I'm doing quotes, air quotes, this new Van Halen record,
Yeah.
and it was just songs from the Heyday.
It's called are you talking about Different Kind of Truth?
I don't know.
It's an album they put out recently. Well, I say recently, maybe 4 years ago with David Lee Roth,
Or
and
longer, yeah.
it's made out of scraps of stuff they had left over from the '70s.
Yeah, re-recorded songs from those Gene Simmons demos.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned that that was a pretty decent album. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
My expectations weren't that high after all these years, but the fact that they were building off of bits and pieces that were left over when they were in their prime had me pretty excited. And then when I heard the record, I was like, this is a pretty good addition to the David Lee Roth Van Halen catalog. Well done, boys. You didn't tarnish the legacy.
Did you know that Kiss asked Eddie Van Halen to join Kiss?
Yeah, I heard that he was even in the studio around the time of the Love Gun album, and I don't know if he actually recorded anything or demoed anything, and then
Yeah,
they
I don't know. I mean, it's no secret that Eddie was in the studio with a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, what about
not the least of which was Michael Jackson many years later. How
well,
about that, you know?
there's others too. There's
Yeah,
stuff
but
that
that
he's yeah.
that was one of the sticking points between Roth and Eddie Van Halen was 1984 didn't go to number one because Thriller was at number one and Eddie Van Halen played on it and didn't get paid.
Yeah, that's something that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
well,
yeah, that
I
that
mean,
that's
that's one of my favorite Eddie Van Halen solos, by the way, is the one on "Beat It." You know, I
well,
thought,
Beat It's a great song.
yeah,
Obviously, it's a
yeah,
great song.
yeah.
So, what about I had one more anecdote. Oh, what about have you heard about these are all rumors because I don't have anything to hold in my hand. Um, there is I guess it's an unreleased record that was made by, of course, David Lee Roth on vocals, and John Five wrote the tunes with Roth. And
Yeah,
there's a full record of this kick-ass, and it's in the era of old Van Halen, and it's John Five who's one
monster.
of the baddest motherfuckers to play a guitar in the world,
Yeah,
and David Lee Roth
they're
in fine form.
they actually, if I'm not mistaken, they actually recorded and released something, and it flew under the radar because John Five was basically kind of unknown at that time. But I feel like they did record something and did release it, and it obviously didn't sell very well or become very popular, or else it would be jumping out at us.
What's it called?
I
I
don't
dare
know.
you. I don't think it's out.
I don't
I
know.
think you're creating a fight.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the very least, you're correct. They went into the studio and they worked together. I know that. Uh, but
So this is merely speculation from my side of things because that would be something that I would like to hear, and I
oh
don't.
yeah,
If
yeah,
someone out there has the record, please post in the comments after you hit subscribe.
yeah, yeah, and
Luke,
let us
I
know
am your father. You must subscribe.
if that record indeed does exist and we're just drawing a blank. Jason says no, and I want to
I,
say that there's something out there, but I could be totally wrong.
yeah,
So
I don't know if something so kick ass as that, as rumors, because it's only rumors to me.
yeah,
And you're saying that it's out, hadn't floated by and caught my attention. That doesn't make sense.
yeah, okay, all right, I'll buy
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, they did team up and do something together. Whether it saw the light of day or not remains a
Yeah.
mystery. So, um, we got one more clip from Roth, and it might be the
Yeah.
funniest one of the bunch. And so, as when he called me to do the interview, we had our time zones mixed up, and he called and I wasn't there. So I had to scramble to get his publicist on the phone and reschedule the interview. And he called back, and obviously we did connect. But here's how he ended the interview, with regard to how we were going to patch up the mess if we didn't reconnect. So
Yeah.
here's
Or
the.
if the phone went dead or whatever. Yeah. Here you go. Here it comes.
Listen, I really appreciate your time. I'm sorry I missed you this morning. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And like I said,
You know what I was going to do, Dave, is I was going to call back and I was going to just leave you a list of answers until you make up the question. Okay, so why don't we do a little bit of that right now, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You want to call me back and leave me some answers?
No, I'll just do it right now. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Dear Dave, here are some answers. Please make up the questions later and be creative and colorful. Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Answer number 1. Phenomenal. Couldn't have possibly been better. Answer number 2. It wasn't me. Those are lies and rumors spread by my competitors to ruin my good name. Number 3. Yes, Your Honor, I was here last week.
Oh, man, this is going to be fun.
Dave, come to the show. Say hello.
I will. I'd love to. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much for your time, Dave.
Great day.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to leave you some answers, make up the questions, and be creative.
Well, and that's classic. You wouldn't expect it to be that little show that he put on for you at the end there, but you knew something was going to go out with a bang.
Man, yeah, that was out of all the interviews I've done, that one's definitely a standout, and for good reason, as you all have witnessed now. So
Yeah, you interviewed Eddie as well,
yeah,
but there's no comparison in entertainment.
yeah. Eddie's more serious and a gearhead, and he's great. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean, dude, nobody really stacks up to Roth. I mean. It was just
Well, I
pure
don't.
comedy the whole time, and I love the fact that he's just howling along, laughing along with me the whole time. So
He's making it a good time wherever he's going. If he's, he could be doing laundry and laughing by himself, probably. You know. So
well, there you have it.
I hope he's entertaining himself right now somewhere
I'm sure
because
he is.
the last couple things I've heard him do, I'm worried about him. 'Cause it's almost like a stream of consciousness, and then like someone put a wall up, and he just starts on a new color, And I'm just like, wait a second, did the record skip? Because and I hear Steven Tyler has that same kind of thing going on. I'm like, man, I hope they're
Yeah,
hope they're still hanging in there, trying to,
yeah,
that's a bitch. So
yeah. Well, I guess if you spend your whole life doling out punchlines, I mean, at some point, do the wheels fall off? I don't know, man.
Well, it's still entertaining, but it makes you
Absolutely.
go, "What? That's a wing nut going on there." I don't. That's it's got shoehorns and all kinds of non sequiturs happening. I mean, they were non sequitur anyway, but now I'm just he's spinning me around, telling me to shoot the target, and I don't need a blindfold, because I'm so confused. So
Oh, man. Well, David
anyway,
Lee Roth, obviously one of the great frontmen of all time, in front of one of the greatest bands of all time, and that catalog of music he put together with the Van Halen brothers and Michael Anthony is something to behold, and it's timeless. You could put on any of those records today, and it'll start a party. And I mean, what more can you ask for? Great stuff. That was fun. Thanks for pulling up the Roth clips. It's always fun to hear that stuff again. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad that you have been in a position to be able to, you know, rub elbows with some, some footloose and fancy free folk. And I think that has you being a rock fan has given just so everyone at here talk louder as well as listeners and fans and subscribers are taking note here. Um, you know, they now know what really sort of probably helped spawn the idea of you and I having some sort of Beavis and Butthead talk show.
Yeah.
You being a journalist and me being a front man and a lyricist and us meeting in the middle, going, well, we're buddies, we're fans, and we're both sort of writers and characters, and we should take our vitamins and put our crash helmets on and make a show, and we did. So there you go.
Here we are.
Yeah.
And we had David Lee Roth as a special guest, whether he knows it or not today. So,
Well, let's hope we don't get sued.
and on that note, let's move on to our shot of rock and roll. So, my shot of rock and roll today is based on this photo that we're showing right now on YouTube. And for those of you who are listening and not watching, what I'm showing is a picture of a promo item. It's actually a Dangerous Toys promo item. And we started this episode by talking about one of our listeners, a guy named Rex Rogers. And Rex actually gave me this promo item. And what it is it's a wooden Jack in the Box that was used as a promotional item, a Dangerous Toys promotional item. And what it did was when you lift the latch, the Dangerous Toys clown, also known as Bill Z Bub, pops out of the Jack in the Box, and also along with a cassette copy of, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I think it's the debut album. And it's one of these things that wasn't available to the public. You couldn't get it through the fan club. Jason's holding his up right now.
Yeah, so Jared can show the clip while I got up.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
here it is.
There it is. It's a
It's
wooden Dangerous Toys Jack in the Box, and when you flip the lid, Bill Z Bub pops out,
Yeah,
and
it's a mock-up of the album cover
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
The box it's literally embossed,
it's
the
wood.
logo and the clown face, the infamous clown and crossbones. He's wearing a cowboy hat in the embossed.
Yeah,
It'd be cool to make a mold of that. I bet I could do that without
yeah.
ruining the
So
collectible.
tell people this is kind of a rarity because it wasn't available to the public. You couldn't get it through the fan club. You weren't selling it at the gigs as at the merch table. This was strictly for radio promotion or something. Is that right?
Yeah, so this wasn't even, I can't even take the credit for, the band, we can't even take the credit for this thing. It looks like the box from Hellraiser, which is appropriate to
It
me.
is
It's appropriate.
appropriate.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. It
perfect.
just it just looks like it would demons fly out or something. Anyway,
Perfect.
so management and maybe the label, you know, when they finally saw the album cover, they were like, "Oh man, we need to make a real Jack in the Box with that fucker popping out," you know, and da 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 da, and that was unbeknownst to me or anyone in the band that they were thinking of doing that. How can they make that a reality? I would have never known.
Yeah.
But obviously they contacted. I think that the company was called the Illusion Factory. They're credited on the record as part of the art department because they had to, for whatever reason, had to finish coloring the album art because it was turned in slightly unfinished.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone ever noticed this before, but the colors on the Texas flag earring are wrong. That's because someone from California doesn't know where the red and the blue fucking go on the red and the white. My bad.
Oh,
Shit, I don't even know. Because of them, they messed it up for me. So anyway, yeah, they put the red, Texas flag reds on the bottom. They put the red on the top and the white on the bottom. So that's why now everybody knows why that flag is messed up. Is because
yeah.
someone in California did. They painted it weird. So, but I'm gonna pop this lid, but I'm gonna do it kind of sheepishly because this thing will fall apart. This thing's over 30 years old. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, there went the cassette. So the
Wow.
spring is actually hardcore.
Yeah. That
And it
thing
threw the
launched out of there.
cassette out. Yeah.
That launched out of there.
Is like a bullet, right? So
Yeah.
the cassette sits like that,
Yep. Yep.
and it's pretty cool. And yours doesn't have a cowboy hat.
No, mine is missing the hat and
What
it doesn't have the cassette in it anymore.
does it have? The hangman's noose around his
It
neck?
does. It
Oh,
does
good.
have the
Okay.
hangman's noose. So
Yeah.
so the reason I got mine is Rex Rogers and his band, Shotgun Rebels, came to Austin to play a gig. Oh, and yours has all of his teeth too.
Well, let me mention that. So this
Oh,
guy, I have a backstory behind this guy. That's will take too long to tell, but this is not my original. Like everyone in the band got one of these out of
yeah.
like maybe 250, I think they made. And you
Wow.
were right. These were promo items that went to radio stations all across the US.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what a cool thing. They open a box and they get this thing and they get whoa, man, we got to check these guys out. It was a great sort of calling card.
Yeah, sure.
The teeth were broken out when I got this little guy, and so what I did is I got artsy one day, and the paint on the nose, the clown nose, had worn off because it rubbed against the side of the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I painted the nose fairly recently. Actually, I gave him a facelift, and he was missing all his teeth. So those actually are toothpicks broken off, painted yellow, and glued on. So there's Dave's without teeth,
Mine's
and and
yeah.
here's mine with teeth, and those are toothpicks broken off, painted, glued in. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
facelift.
I
Where did Rex Rogers get his?
well, so that's the story.
Okay.
So he comes to town, he comes to Austin with his band Shotgun Rebels, and I hadn't met the band at the time. I was aware of them, and I think they'd been to town before and played some shows, like you said, with either Broken Teeth or maybe Gentleman's Social Club or New
Oh
Disaster.
yeah. Every few months they were here
Yeah.
for a year
But
or
they,
two.
I don't know that we'd ever been formally introduced. So they were coming to town, and I offered, I know what it's like, not firsthand, but I'm aware of what it's like to be a band that's traveling. You want a place to eat, you want a place to relax before the gig. These guys are on the cheap, so there is no hotel. So I was like, hey, you guys want a place to camp out for, before you do the show? You can come to my house. I'll grill up some barbecue. I'll feed you guys. If anybody needs to do laundry or whatever, take a shower. So they came over and hung out in the backyard. We had a barbecue. And much like you see behind me here, for those of you that are listening and not watching, I'm in this room that's just covered in all my rock and roll memorabilia from years gone by. Well, they heard about my room, and they're like, "Hey, we hear you've got this room that's covered in all this memorabilia and all this rock and roll stuff, and can we see it?" And I said, "Sure, come on upstairs." And they come upstairs and they check out my room, and Rex was looking around, and he saw that I had some Dangerous Toys stuff, and it was around my birthday. And so they were like, "Dude, this is awesome." They didn't even want to leave. And then I found out later that they said their favorite part of the trip to Austin was hanging out in my bedroom. And then, so Rex told me before he left, he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you something for your birthday." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I gave him my address. And I'm thinking, he's in a band. So I'm thinking he's going to send me a t shirt or a Shotgun Rebels CD or something like that. Well, a few days go by. I come home from work one day and there's this box on my doorstep and it's about the size of a football and it's from Rex. And I'm thinking, this is not a CD and it's a weird shape for a t shirt. Wonder what this is. And I open it up and it was the Dangerous Toys Jack in the Box. And I think he had it on his shelf at the Dead Horse Saloon in San Angelo.
That's where I had seen it. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that he had one. And he may have told me because they're rare. They're rare. Let's
Yeah.
face it. It's
Yeah.
rare. It's kind of historical thing, especially around here regionally. It's kind of a big deal because we're from here. So
Yeah.
I still don't remember where he got his.
I don't know where he got it, but I
Okay.
remember he sent it to me and he said it would look better in your room with all your other Dangerous Toys stuff than it does at my bar, so it's yours. And I was like, dude,
Well, he had a cool looking bar, you know.
yeah,
He had it dolled up real cool. It looked a lot like your room.
yeah.
Maybe it was rivaling your room, and maybe that's where he got his inspiration.
I don't know. I think we're all geeks at heart, you know.
Well, well, hopefully Rex can get in the commentaries and you know, because he's already a subscriber.
Fiber.
And
Yeah.
he can tell us the story of where he got his Dangerous Toys collectible promo item, Jack in the
Yeah,
Box.
do that, Rex. Leave it in a comment because we'd like to know that. And once again, thank you for the gift and the generosity. I'm proud to have such a rare promo item in my collection of stuff. And thanks for following the show and
Oh yeah.
subscribing and all that stuff.
Real
And
quick, real quick, real quick. This one I got from Dustin Stroud.
yeah, yeah, Dustin, local musician guy as well. Ritalin Kids, right?
Ritalin Kids.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
He's now my realtor.
yeah. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was his band, he was in I think New York or something, and he was in the office for the label rep. And they had this Jack in the Box in there, and he's like, "Whoa!" And they were like, "You know these guys?" And like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You can have it."
Oh,
They
nice.
just gave it to him. So
Oh,
he comes to like a Broken Teeth gig or something. He goes, "Dude, check it out. This is for you." And I was like, "What?" And like the funny thing is like a month prior or maybe more, I had sold mine. You know, I fell on hard times and I needed some money. I
yeah,
sold mine for like $150.
yeah,
So obviously it was meant for me to have one.
yeah. Of course. I
So
mean, and through the generosity of good friends, we both got one.
there you see, there's something. That's the reason we have a show, Dave.
yeah, guys like that.
Stupid stuff like that.
Well, thank you, Rex. Thanks for the gift and thanks for subscribing and thanks for being a fan of Talk Louder. And thank you, Dustin, for reuniting Jason with his well deserved, long lost Jack in the Box Beelzebub. Should wrap it up this go around. That was a lot of fun talking about Roth and Van Halen. What a career, what a collection of records. I reach for them all the time. They never let me down. Classic stuff. And on that note, we should remind folks talklouderpodcast.com is where you can get your swag, t-shirts, coffee mugs, etc. That's talklouderpodcast.com. In the
Ching
meantime, thanks for listening. We'll see you again on the next episode of the Talk Louder podcast.